They say you can measure humanity's progress by the dinner plate. And nowhere is that more evident than in the modern poultry industry. In a world demanding billions of chicken meals each year, speed, efficiency, and technology have united in a push to hatch, raise, and process chickens at an unprecedented scale. Step inside today's vast poultry facilities, and you might see fleets of automated incubators, lightning-fast conveyor belts, and intricate computer systems tracking countless birds from egg to final product. But look deeper, and you'll also find controversies over labor conditions, animal welfare, and the delicate balance between large-scale efficiency and ethical responsibility. Given the global love for chicken, it's no surprise that hatcheries are now engineering marvels. Gone are the days of small incubators heated by hand or simple lamps. Modern operations rely on climate-controlled chambers capable of housing tens, if not hundreds of thousands of eggs in perfect temperature and humidity. Each cycle is meticulously monitored, with data on carbon dioxide levels, moisture, and airflow fed into complex software that's designed to churn out hatchlings by the exact hour of the day. The speed and precision may seem miraculous, yet it also underscores a central tension. Does this relentless focus on productivity overshadow concerns for the actual well-being of these birds? Before an egg ever arrives at the hatchery, selective breeding programs determine which genetic lines are most likely to produce hardy chicks that grow quickly on minimal feed. Some debate arises here. Are we skirting the edge of nature's limits by producing birds genetically prone to rapid weight gain, or is this simply the logical solution to feed a growing planet? Critics worry about potential health consequences for the birds, like skeletal problems or an overtaxed circulatory system. Rumors have circulated that a small percentage of these birds can't fully support their own body weight after a certain age, raising ethical dilemmas about whether certain lines have been pushed too far. Proponents counter that such issues are shrinking thanks to improved husbandry and scientific data. Either way, the eggs that roll into these hatcheries represent the culmination of advanced breeding techniques aimed at maximum output. Inside the climate-controlled chambers, each rack of eggs has sensors that detect minute changes in humidity or temperature. If anything drifts outside the specified range, alarms go off in control rooms staffed by technicians who might quickly adjust airflow or water sprinklers. In many places, entire hatcheries function around the clock, with staff rotating through shifts to keep the environment stable. Critics question whether constant artificial manipulation is healthy for the birds in the long run, while supporters argue that it actually improves survivability and consistency. Whether one sees it as a triumph of science or a cautionary sign of over-optimization depends on where you stand in the ongoing conversation about animal welfare. A few days before the chicks are fully formed, these eggs might be transferred to separate hatching trays. And that's when the real controversies begin. Industry insiders acknowledge that not all hatchlings are considered useful. Males in egg-laying breeds, for instance, have historically been culled en masse because they can't lay eggs and aren't as profitable for meat production. Methods for disposal vary and are typically regulated, but allegations persist about inhumane or rushed culling practices. Industry representatives insist that improved methods, like specialized technology that identifies male embryos before they hatch, are in development to address these concerns, but adoption is slow due to cost barriers. Rumors swirl that only large corporations can afford this technology, while smaller hatcheries continue with older, more controversial methods. This has sparked consumer-driven movements calling for labeling changes, so shoppers know whether male chicks were spared or destroyed in the process. Once chicks are deemed viable, they're whisked off to specialized grow-out farms, or in some cases, integrated facilities that house them from day-old birds through to processing. Here, technology continues its role. Automated feeding systems measure out rations designed for maximum growth, sometimes using sophisticated feed formulas that shift by the day, or even the hour, based on the bird's age. Opponents of this system allege that overly efficient feeding can strain a chicken's body, leading to health issues like leg deformities or heart strain. Supporters claim that modern feed science actually reduces mortality rates, giving each bird exactly what it needs without waste. The debate plays out in online forums, behind closed doors at industry conferences, and in quiet discussions among veterinarians grappling with the reality of high-volume poultry care. At the center of each facility stands a workforce that can number in the thousands, tasked with overseeing everything from feeding regimens to climate controls, manure management, and, inevitably, slaughter. This is where the second half of the story unfolds. At the processing plant, when the birds are of sufficient market weight, they're transported, often by specialized trucks that can haul vast numbers in multi-tiered crates. Some drivers claim these vehicles are designed for minimal stress, featuring better ventilation and shorter travel times. Others argue that crowding is still a problem, pointing to videos circulating on social media that show cramped cages and frantic birds panting in the heat. The truth may lie somewhere in between. Modern trucks do boast improved technology, but oversights or malfunctions can still turn a transport into a nightmare. Once at the processing plant, an intricate dance begins. Automated conveyor lines move chickens through each stage, from stunning to bleeding, scalding, and defeathering, at speeds that can boggle the mind. Current technology can process thousands of birds per hour. Some insiders whisper that lines move too fast for humane handling, leading to mistakes such as improper stunning or incomplete bleeding. These allegations have prompted some major retailers to demand stricter auditing, with teams of inspectors occasionally showing up unannounced. Processing companies retort that automation has drastically reduced human error, pointing out that machines calibrated correctly reduce the likelihood of mishaps. But the debate rages on, with critics citing injuries to both birds and workers as proof that the relentless push for speed can compromise safety and ethics. Workers in these plants can face staggering levels of physical strain. Repetitive motions on the processing line can lead to conditions like carpal tunnel syndrome, while the chilling environment, necessary to maintain food safety, can make shifts uncomfortable or even painful. Anonymous accounts posted online describe punishing schedules and minimal breaks, fueling rumors that some operations prioritize output over employee well-being. Stories circulate of plants hiring temporary or migrant labor, sometimes with questionable wages or job security. Advocates for these workers call for better oversight, while industry representatives highlight improved safety protocols, mandatory break times, and specialized training. Some propose that further automation might address these issues, but critics worry it would instead lead to large-scale layoffs. Handling chickens before slaughter is another flashpoint. Many countries have guidelines that require birds to be rendered unconscious before being bled, typically through electrical water baths or controlled atmosphere stunning. Officials maintain these methods minimize suffering, yet certain activist groups have documented instances where birds appear alert in the slaughter phase. There's also a movement to shift to gas stunning systems, which some say is more humane, though initial installation costs are high. Allegations swirl that smaller plants can't afford these improvements, so the older and potentially harsher methods persist. Whether these allegations are fully accurate or only apply to a minority of plants remains contested. But the tension underscores a persistent question. Does modern technology truly ensure humane treatment? Or does profit overshadow those ideals when the line speed cranks up? Beyond the moral quandaries of slaughter, the environmental footprint looms large. Processing plants require vast amounts of water to clean and rinse the carcasses. Waste must be treated to prevent pollution, and the sheer volume of byproducts like feathers, offal, and blood can overwhelm local disposal systems if not managed properly. Here, advanced technology steps in again. Some facilities incorporate elaborate rendering systems that convert waste into protein meal for animal feed, or power generators that transform bio-waste into energy. Proponents tout these systems as a sign of progress, a sustainable loop that benefits everyone. Detractors wonder if the push to intensify production, raising millions more birds per year, outstrips any gains from recycling byproducts. It's a tightrope walk between feeding an expanding global population and maintaining ecological balance. The push toward sustainability has also ignited talk of plant-based alternatives and cultured meat. While not the central focus of this particular industry, their very existence has generated new debates. Might the relentless quest for faster, cheaper chicken eventually be undercut by lab-grown proteins that bypass many of these controversies altogether? Industry experts dismiss the idea as unrealistic for now, citing consumer preferences and the economic advantage of established supply chains. Still, speculation abounds, and some poultry giants have quietly invested in alternative proteins, hedging their bets on where the future might lead. It's yet another sign that modern poultry processing, for all its scale and efficiency, may be on the cusp of disruptive change. In the meantime, technology keeps marching forward. AI-based monitoring systems can track thousands of birds at once, analyzing their movements or vocalizations to detect health issues or stress. Already, a handful of cutting-edge facilities experiment with systems that adjust feed or climate settings automatically based on real-time data. It sounds like the ultimate efficiency driver. No more guesswork, no more wasted resources. But critics warn that if farmers or workers become too dependent on data analytics, they might miss tangible hands-on cues that indicate problems. There's also the risk of hacking or system malfunctions. A single glitch could disrupt an entire facility's day-old chicks, or cause a feed cycle meltdown, resulting in mass casualties. The question of labor displacement looms large. If every routine task becomes automated, what happens to the thousands of employees who rely on poultry plants for their livelihoods? Some companies emphasize that humans remain vital for higher-level tasks like quality control, oversight, and maintenance. Others note that labor is one of the biggest costs, and advanced machinery can drive that expense down. This tension between technological progress and human job security remains an undercurrent in almost every conversation about the future of poultry production. While some hail the move toward automation as a solution to labor shortages, others foresee entire communities being hollowed out if the typical workforce shrinks too drastically. As the industry grapples with controversies and breakthroughs, consumers hold more power than ever. Social media campaigns highlight potential abuses, while corporate marketing touts new humane certifications or eco-friendly technology. Shoppers might find cage-free, free-range, or no antibiotics ever labeling on supermarket shelves, each claiming a different slice of ethical high ground. But critics ask how meaningful these labels truly are, if the entire system still depends on rapid growth rates and high-volume slaughter. Retailers respond by pushing their suppliers to adopt stricter welfare standards, fueling an arms race of sorts, in which companies try to outdo each other with kinder, gentler images. Detractors remain skeptical, suggesting that real change requires deeper structural shifts, not just nicer marketing. At the heart of it all, we return to the birds themselves. An individual chicken might spend its life in carefully monitored conditions, from the moment it's an embryo in the hatchery to the final seconds on a conveyor line. Every stage is orchestrated by technology that tracks growth, feed consumption, and environmental conditions. On paper, it's a marvel of modern logistics. Minimal waste, minimal cost, maximum output. Yet the moral questions linger. In a system built on accelerating every possible metric, is there room for a genuine commitment to welfare, or is it inevitably overshadowed by profit motives? Chickens have become so ubiquitous that many forget they are living creatures, not mere units of production. Some experts argue that the welfare of the animal and the quality of the final product are closely linked. Stressed birds can yield tougher, less appealing meat. For others, the metric of success is purely financial, delivering consistent volume at the lowest possible cost. And so we see an industry perched on the precipice of conflicting narratives, one that views modernization as a boon for both birds and people, and another that sees these factories as emblematic of a system that commodifies life. Stepping outside the realm of moral debate, we also find pressing legal and economic considerations. National and international regulations govern food safety, antibiotic usage, and cleanliness, imposing compliance procedures that can require millions of dollars in upgrades. Large conglomerates often adapt quickly, but smaller or family-run plants can find themselves squeezed, leading to consolidation and the dominance of massive corporate entities. Critics see this as a dangerous centralization of power, where a handful of companies control poultry markets, set prices, and influence legislation. Defenders of the modern approach argue that consolidation is inevitable in a global market, demanding consistent, safe meat products. But the specter of monopolistic practices, where a few big players dictate the fate of farmers and workers, cannot be easily dismissed. Beyond the walls of the hatchery and the processing plant, communities that host these massive facilities deal with their own set of challenges. Increased truck traffic, persistent odors, and the disposal of wastewater can alter the local environment. While modern systems exist to reduce foul smells and properly treat effluents, mishaps can occur. Lawsuits over contaminated rivers or groundwater occasionally surface, intensifying debates about whether some poultry giants put profit over stewardship. On the flip side, such facilities can provide jobs and economic stability in rural areas that might otherwise struggle. The trade-off between economic gain and environmental or social strain is far from straightforward. Amid the swirl of success stories and horror tales, data is often used to paint a more definitive picture. Supporters of large-scale poultry plants cite statistics about lower mortality rates due to advanced vaccination programs or improvements in genetics that reduce disease. They highlight the leaps made in computerized feed mills that measure nutrients to the micro level, optimizing weight gain and reducing feed waste. Meanwhile, opponents point to antibiotic resistance as a looming threat, worried that the industry's historically heavy usage of antibiotics fosters new strains of bacteria. The industry counters that antibiotic use is down, thanks to vaccines and improved sanitation. Yet, like so many points of contention, the numbers can be interpreted in multiple ways, giving credence to both optimism and alarm. Looking forward, artificial intelligence stands to upend even more aspects of poultry production. Some companies have begun experimenting with fully automated hatcheries, where every step, temperature adjustments, egg transfers, even chick vaccinations, is carried out by robotic arms, guided by machine learning algorithms. It's easy to imagine a future where drones inspect feed silos, scanning barcodes or RFID tags to track feed inventory in real time, or where entire flocks are monitored via camera systems that detect subtle shifts in behavior, sending alerts to a manager's smartphone. The industry could become more precise and more profitable than ever. Yet these possibilities also magnify existing concerns about workforce displacement, ethical oversight, and overdependence on complex technology. And so, we reach a juncture in the story. One where poultry processing epitomizes both the best and worst of our technological age. On one hand, we have a finely tuned system capable of feeding billions, leveraging science to reduce mortality and boost consistency. On the other, we face unresolved issues: how to ensure fair labor practices, how to manage environmental impact, how to maintain a meaningful commitment to humane animal handling, and how to keep industry giants accountable. The processing plant of today is a far cry from the small farms of yesteryear, but perhaps it reflects the unstoppable tide of globalization and consumer demand. In the end, the question is whether this massive machine we've built can adapt to mounting pressures for transparency, ethics, and sustainability. Some argue that incremental reforms, like slower line speeds, more humane stunning methods, or advanced water treatment, can steer the industry in a better direction. Others believe a more radical rethink is required, possibly pointing to local, smaller-scale systems or plant-based alternatives as the ultimate solution. But for now, modern hatcheries and processing plants stand at the center of a critical dialogue about how we treat animals, how we feed ourselves, and how far we're willing to push technology in pursuit of convenience and profit. Peer behind the automated incubators and high-speed lines, and you'll see an operation both astounding and unsettling in its scale. Thousands of fuzzy chicks on one end of the facility, chilled, packaged portions on the other. In between lies a labyrinth of machines, workers, and procedures designed to transform life into product as efficiently as possible. It's a system that can't be dismissed simply as good or bad. Rather, it's a reflection of our era, a time of breathtaking capabilities, unstoppable demands, and a moral compass struggling to keep up. As you consider the scale of these facilities, ask yourself, is this truly the pinnacle of feeding a hungry world, or is it merely one stage in an evolving drama, teetering between reform and entrenchment? The answer might depend on whether we embrace new technologies responsibly, enforce stricter oversight, and remain willing to reassess the human and animal costs. For every claim that advanced machinery lessens suffering, there's another claim that it only conceals it behind automated systems. For every plan to increase line speeds, there's a protest demanding better conditions. Time will ultimately decide whether these modern methods represent a necessary evolution or an ethical misstep. In reflecting on this, perhaps the most important takeaway is that we have a choice in shaping the future of poultry production. Regulators can pass laws that raise standards, corporations can invest in humane innovations and transparent supply chains. Consumers can insist on clearer labeling or shift their buying habits to nudge the industry in new directions. Whether modern hatcheries and processing plants are remembered as a remarkable solution to global hunger or as institutions that prioritized speed over empathy will come down to how we respond to the system's current challenges. And that response is still in flux. No matter which side of the debate you're on, one thing is certain. The journey from hatchery to processing plant has become a high-tech saga that blends biology, engineering, economics, and ethics into a single, staggering enterprise. At the heart of it all are billions of chickens, living, breathing creatures whose lives begin under the measured hum of incubators and end in the cold precision of automated slaughter lines. Whether you view this as a testament to human ingenuity or a call for profound change, it's hard to ignore the monumental scale. The modern poultry industry is here to stay, at least for now, and its story is being written every day by the machines that run it, the people who staff it, and the consumers who demand its products. Where it heads next is up to all of us.